to you by Word Ants Productions and the Carizo Comicrudo tribe. And we have Juan and Jesse Mancia. And today we're talking about things that nobody wants to talk about.
We're starting in Monahans, Texas, and at the state park, and they're being really welcoming. It's interesting. But they're the ones that had the oil leaks out through the Monahans sandhills, and that's one of our sacred sites for us at one time because it was kind of blocks the wind. And of course, if anybody's ever lived in West Texas, they know that that wind, when it blows about 60, 70, 80 miles an hour sometimes. And it blows a lot of dust, turns the whole sky brown.
What do they call them? Haboobs?
Haboobs.
Haboobs?
I call them dust storms.
Dust storms, yeah.
Actually, in our language, the it's the way you say it is wahan, and that means sand. And you say wahan, potis wahan, this means blowing sand. But it also, that's where the Waha um, hub is for where they're planning to run the Saguaro um, pipeline from that area too. So we're we're doing a youth run.
So Juan, let me ask you: you have not only our local young men, but some coming from out of state. Do you know who they are?
We've got the group that's organized the Sacred Stone Camp in South Dakota. I mean North Dakota. I'm sorry, at Standing Rock. Yeah, and so we're doing those also, and they're coming in as well, and we're trying to make sure that everybody is well taken care of and they're well protected because we're going right through some areas. There's a lot of man camps, and
What's a man camp?
a man camp is where a lot of oil workers work, and they've been notorious.
They work or what?
Huh?
What is it?
It's where they live, where the oil workers live, we're doing a lot of the oil work down in that area, especially in the Permian Basin. That's why we're starting this, is to make sure that the people understand that a lot of this fracking gas is going through the LNGs, and it's going to create some problems. It's not creating; it's already creating problems. But we're trying to protect our sacred sites at Boca Chica, um, at Garcia Pasture, which is a national monument, and it's a problem with the ongoing genocide that nobody really wants to talk about. So that's why we're doing this, is to let people know that there are some sacrifice zones that are being set up still even today, especially through the fossil fuel industry and all these rich narcissistic people who continue to promote their pockets instead of the people. So I think that the policies that they're setting up in Texas are a lot of policies set up on a the the what is it the it's profits instead of people over profits.
I mean, some people would say structurally capitalism is. I mean, it's structured that way. Yeah, like like to
And that's
emphasize profits over people.
and that's a good point because I think that Texas is fertile ground for that, with the people in charge and the government, starting with Abbott and their policies. It's exactly what would grow that mindset. So, starting where would the this walk begin? One.
Well, wait. So it's like it seems similar to like a spirit run almost.
Well, that's exactly what it is. I think that people, I mean, with conventional or contemporary contemporary thought or language, you would probably call it a prayer run.
Mhm.
And but for us, it's more like what you're saying it's you know, reliving the ancestors, and that's why they call it the Bridges Run, because it's the youth to ancestors run.
So where can I find information about this? Is it on Facebook?
It's on Facebook, and it'll be in the next couple of days. It'll be on Instagram. We're really not pushing it too much to where people will know what's going on because we're concerned about the security. The first part, the first leg of this,
Right.
because of the man camps and because of other places like that.
Well,
And
specifically because it's in protest of these sites, right?
right,
And I want to get back to this in a second because you did make a really interesting point about this being a continued genocide.
yeah.
Um, and why is it? Well, let's.
Well, a lot of people don't see it as, and you can help me on this. They don't see what we've really gone through, and for us, we have that connection with our ancestors, even that we had with our grandfather. That even though we had it with our grandfather, I think we want to continue to make sure that it becomes a more of a that connection is that's the bridge, is that connection. And
Mhm.
I think that we live in a society where they're so disconnected, where the colonizer that came here, the invaders that came here, left all of their ancestors across the ocean, and they don't know where any of their sacred sites are. So there's that conceptualization of capitalism being the primary thing, and in that they set up those hierarchies of, when they say stuff like every man uh, has his castle or takes care of their castle. So you have to own a home, you have to do all this kind of stuff. So you just kind of come over and take over the property.
So, like invaders coming in, very very much like what we know to be part of genocide, because genocide seems to be hand in hand with colonialism, right?
Well, I think that that's what they came in here. But I don't think initially. I don't know. Maybe it was. I don't know. I can't tell. And through all the research I've done, they came in for one thing. That was just to trade with India for the spices.
Mhm.
But when they came in, they found out that they weren't in India after a while.
It's really who was the first to exploit those markets is really what it was.
Yes, it was
It's like,
exactly.
who could be the first to exploit those eastern markets?
Well, Jesse asked you for
A definition?
yeah.
Yeah, we saw the definition. You have it on your phone, right? I'm gonna show it to everybody who's watching on Twitch. Sorry, we're doing multiple things here, but
I don't know if you have the same one.
okay.
Is it Oxford?
Oh no, I'll look up Oxford, but I have the Merriam-Webster. I'm gonna do Oxford. Okay, genocide Oxford.
I'll just read it. It says the deliberate killing of a large number of people from a particular nation or ethnic group
Yeah, that's very
with
similar to the one.
with the aim of destroying that nation or group, a campaign of genocide. So I think that what I know is that genocide happens when like that, when you physically destroy human life as a group. But there's another kind or another way to destroy a group, I think, and that's by taking away our culture, by taking away our tribalism, by taking away our identity. And when you strip a people of that, they become, I believe, neutralized because there's no anchor. And we all need an anchor. I want to know where I came from, who my grandfather was, my great grandfather, in our traditions and what got us here. So I guess to make a long story short, I believe that genocide is not only the killing of physical killing of people, but also an incremental destruction of identity. to have everyone blend in, and then you're at the mercy of whatever that particular thought is for the day, because everyone's the same. And I don't believe that we are.
It's you're so what
So
you're
it's also
saying.
like you're saying it's like the erasure of culture, like just the
Exactly.
erasure of identity. It's also part of that genocide. It's not just deliberate killing; it's deliberate reprogramming. Changing of a person's identity.
You destroy, I think, yeah, you destroy all of that uh, history, the tribalism, the uh, who you really are, and you become vanilla.
It's bright.
So one of the things that I was that I hear when that happens is that we're a salad, or we're a what was the other, a melting pot. And
A salad.
well, no, that was a more PC at one time, was to be a salad.
Toss salad.
Yeah, and everybody was mixed in the same bowl, but you still had something that you could never. We as people, as BIPOC people,
Mhm.
and especially as natives, we can't let go of what we look like and who we are and our color, and so that's not satisfactory enough to the people who invaded, who are light colored, and the ones that are melanin deprived
Melanin deprived.
are have a tendency to because I remember growing up. Remember, I don't know if you remember that this. If you were lighter complected, you were more accepted as being more intelligent. But if you weren't, you were like,
Well, back when you and I were out in private industry, that was a well known fact.
Mhm.
You had to be twice as more qualified than your competitor for a job in order to be able to get it. And then you had to learn the language, how it's not just words, but how it's spoken to blend in. Uh, it's a survival tool that I think we all were able to pick up on, and those that weren't are still struggling because they don't blend in. They can't, even if they want. And but it only blends in for, I believe, uh, to get a point done. But we are who we are, and that doesn't blend in.
well,
It's like passing, right?
Yeah.
It's like doing what you can to pass as, how am I equal to my, white coworker?
How do I compete?
How do I compete with my white
Yeah,
coworker?
not equal, but how do I compete?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you got to have more to offer.
Right. And I could definitely see that, being going on into the early, 2000s, and that's why, like that advantage, who would want to give that up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, who would want to give that up? Then you could start screaming, reverse racism and, that things like equality,
or white fragility.
equity is unconstitutional, those kind of things. We were talking about this the other day. What's that Sowell who says that, or Sowell, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but they kind of force fed us his philosophy when I was at Texas Tech School of Philosophy, because he was against affirmative action. He was against equity. He said equity was evil, and he's a black philosopher saying these things. So it was just like, oh, he gets weaponized by so many people when talking about those subjects. Well, he's the voice of all black people. But I mean, he has some interesting things to say, and I say interesting because, like, really, I want to know, like, how did this guy grow up to become such a self-hater?
Yeah.
And but anyway, yeah, that's just the way the things have kind of played out. It's like who's gonna let that advantage go, right? I do want to take a break real quick because we got a lot of people watching. Um, yes, colorism does stem from colonial mentality, um, the hierarchy of the Spanish, um, where you had the Iberianos at the top, and then you had the black African slaves at the bottom, natives towards the bottom, mestizos and mulattoes in the closer, and
But
Creoles.
and,
But
but
hold on, I just want to make sure everybody knows we are actually streaming this live on Twitch. If you don't have an account, make one. Come watch us there. We're doing these once a week. We're also going to be releasing the streams on YouTube, edited afterwards. This is just actually my live feed. We are going live on social media. If you guys can make the switch over to Twitch, we're trying to get at least 50 followers so we can start monetizing the podcast. And once we get enough followers, we're going to switch over fully to YouTube. So just wanted to put that out there. Thank you guys for tuning in.
yeah, if you guys have a chance, get on that Twitch and under War Dance Productions,
Yeah, War Dance Productions.
brought to you by the Carrizo Comic Crew, the Tribe of Texas. And we have several podcasts that we work on. We're gonna have one later today.
Yeah, we're not live streaming that one, but we're starting to film our Future Generations podcast, which is going to be for younger audiences.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So and then we're also here. We're talking about the realities of what has really happened, about comfort zones and people that don't want to talk about these things because they feel like that we're threatening their fragility, or what they call white fragility, but it's actually white privilege. But I think that if we don't, we were going to continue with this what is it, CRT, the critical racial theory.
Critical race theory.
Yeah, and that they don't want to be able to discuss or feel like they have any accountability to the ongoing genocide. So it's a continual thing, because it's happening to us ourselves by accepting some of the laws that are being made by people that don't truly represent who we are, as not just as Native people, but as people that are BIPOC in this time. Even though they might like Herschel Walker.
Oh man.
I mean, I got the cowboy shirt on. See, I'm an old cowboy fan, and he was a great running back, but he's a sellout. And I mean, I was totally blown out of the water, even when Prescott said, "There's no protesting on football," when Kaepernick
Yeah.
went down on one knee. It's been going on for so long, and people just don't want to recognize it for what it is, and it's still that plantation mentality.
But
That
we have that right here in our own backyard.
Of
I was
course.
reading about some politician. She's I can't remember her name, but it's a woman, representative, Republican from Texas, who, regarding the the proposed Trump uh, arrest,
Mhm.
he said I think Trump said that people should get out there and protest. And she is supporting this. She's saying, yes, I think peaceful protests are good. And uh, the president did so much for our country. I never heard of one thing that he did, but it's a talking point. And these are myths that we
It
are
isn't
having.
Myra Flores, is it?
I believe so. Is she a Republican?
She's a Republican. Yeah, I was looking her up.
I think that's her.
Mexican born.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And it's wolves in sheepskins. I mean, and I hate to use it, but anyway, they're people that come into our mix, and they have agendas, and most of those agendas are for self-preservation of either their career or financially, but they don't give a shit about the people that they represent. If they did, I think it would be a different story.
Hi, Gabby. How are you? Yeah, I just did. One of the things for me is that I think you're right. I think that that's part of what's going on is the acceptance of confusion.
Yeah,
That it's okay.
of chaos.
Yeah, of chaos, and chaos is okay because we don't know what's going to happen with it. I just don't understand why it's a comfort zone for those people that invaded this area because they've set up the comfort zone, and as long as we're making them comfortable, we're okay. We've lived the American dream. I heard that at the Oscars the other day from some of the
Asian.
the yeah
Uh,
that were in that crazy movie.
the multiverse movie.
Yeah, and I was
Everything, everywhere, all at once.
yeah,
Yeah.
and they were saying this is the American dream. Just don't give up. And I'm going like, how many of your people are going to make it that big and those things like that? I said that means that you have to sell out to a system that is continually promoting the destruction of culture, and that's an ongoing genocide, and nobody's holding you know this country accountable for that, especially the state of Texas not being held accountable because that's what their whole idea was to get rid of all the original people of the land. So they did several things. They either killed them, sent them to Oklahoma, or just throw them across the river, and they just became Mexican.
Mm-hmm.
See, and that was the problem that we're having. And then, of course, with the plight that was happening because of the pressure coming from the north and from the east, and because of the gold rush up in the Black Hills, it pushed a lot of people into the southern plains and into Texas, and that didn't happen until you know the the early 1800s, late 1700s, when that started happening, and then they romanticized that version of who we were as native people and forgot about the people that were here already that maintained and still fought and were still fighting and were still raiding those their farms and their ranches, and we became the bad people, and that's
And,
how.
and I just want to add, there's some people talking on my social media that on the answer says in pushed into perpetual servitude to self destruct.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, that was a lot.
That's a really good point.
yeah, it's a good point.
Well, but what I wanted to come back to, because this is like and I didn't realize it. I mean, because like it's like a metaphor to in some ways, but when you think about it, when you go to the valley and you see the air quality changing, you see all the impact on the on Boca Chica Beach from SpaceX, and the high potential for disaster to happen with these LNGs so close to SpaceX, like you see that like these people's lives and their livelihoods are at risk, and that's how they survive. Like they have no choice other than to leave the area, because none of these jobs they're qualified for, because they're like engineering jobs. And
Yeah, you're right. And the other thing is that's part of the economic transition that's going to occur.
yeah,
When they start doing this, they're promising all kinds of jobs, but everybody that already has a mom pop restaurant or
store,
is going to be gone.
it's going to be gone.
Because it's going to bring all those franchises in, and they're not really telling the people there what's really going to happen to them and what's happening. Even like the crazy mayor that was there, he he's got a restaurant, and he's going to lose that restaurant.
Oh yeah,
And
Yeah.
he's not going to.
And it's going to happen, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
of a big part of the economy there is tourism,
Exactly.
Yeah.
and that's being shot down with where you have SpaceX that decides to block a county road, and these are my tax dollars.
Mm-hmm.
That's my road.
Yeah.
Why should it be blocked?
Right.
But that's the kind of hold I think that they have right now on the local government there. Um, and if we accept, I think you said this very well earlier, if we accept their rules, they're not necessarily legal. They're
Yep.
just their rules,
Right.
and they need to be challenged. Like we have, I would like to see more of my indigenous people join us when we speak out against these things. We've had rallies in uh, where in Boca Chica we had one there,
Mm-hmm.
and we've done several in Austin. By the way, when we said about, I just remembered, I'm getting old here, but I just remembered that we were talking about these the destruction of our culture, and we were talking about SpaceX. You have probably heard about the tunnels that are being dug
Mm-hmm.
out about 35 miles south of Austin,
Right.
where Elon Musk is building his own city.
Mm-hmm.
And those are kingdoms now.
Yeah.
They're fiefdoms. This is being allowed in our government. And he is drilling under the soil, underground, to a job site or something crazy.
You, and it's crazy. You said, did you say fiefdom? Did I hear you say
Yeah,
fiefdom?
yeah.
And it's funny you say that because, like, Dave Chappelle, right? Like he's this phenomenon, right? Like when I was younger, Dave Chappelle was like, saying the things that people didn't want, the things no one wanted to talk about, right?
Yeah.
And he was talking about things that no one wanted to talk about. And it seems like nowadays he's doing it in a way that like seems counter to how he used to be. But like I always used to get this really strange feeling of seeing him talk with Joe Rogan about Elon Musk and them saying these incorrect things about them, like, and you could just easily look it up. Like Joe Rogan has his producer there, he could easily look this stuff up, and he's saying categorically false things about him inventing stuff and all this stuff about Elon Musk and how great of a billionaire he is, and what a genius he is. But I remember he was doing a joke at one of his stand-ups, Dave Chappelle. He was doing the stand-up and he was just like talking about Elon Musk, and somebody booed in the audience, and he goes, "Quiet, peasant." And I was just like, you know what? I mean,
That's the attitude.
yeah, I mean, it's Dave Chappelle. He could just be like trying to be the comedian he is and stir things up, right?
That's true. Yeah.
That could be him, but he makes a point.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, fiefdom. It's just like it is a new medieval times with these billionaires. Like that's his kingdom. Like he is a colonizer. He's a conquistador going into, Brownsville, and he's taking the resources so he can shoot his rockets, which are not practical. They're not practical. It's not practical. Like people are talking about like developing lower orbit, building spaceships up there so you don't have to use rocket fuel to get out of the atmosphere because it's just overusing natural resources.
It's more like he's trying to get his rockets off.
He's trying to get his rockets off.
Yeah, so,
I mean, it's gotta be sexual.
I mean, have you seen the rockets?
Yeah, they look like giant,
yeah. And and that's the whole thing. And what I want to make sure that people understand that in itself is an apartheid. That in itself is a termination. When they don't want to talk to the people of the land, the original people, and they just want to talk to the new found servitude or fiefdom, because I mean that's what that mayor was, and that's what the port of Brownsville the authority is. It's just that they're servants to a guy who's handing money out like anything when he wants and what he wants.
New computers in schools, whatever.
So our life ways are threatened when they shut down that, and we can't even go out to the beach.
Yeah, and not even that. I mean, like because I mean, there's like a larger percentage of people who just don't care about native lifeways, and we can we can come to that conclusion, which is unfortunate, right? And we're trying to get our voices out.
Yeah, but they like being indigenous.
Oh yeah, yeah. They like appropriating our culture as much as they can. They all have chokers, you know. But God, I forgot what I was going to say.
Pocket them.
Nah, yeah, I lost what I was going to say.
Well, I think, and I see the what is it like who was the Napoleon effect with this guy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He's a small man, but I don't mean small in stature. I think small in heart and spirit. Yeah, you can do a lot of things with money,
Yeah.
but if you fail to see the the gifts that our creator has given us, the the birds, the fish, the land where we walk, if you fail to see that,
Or the connection that we have with.
and the connection, if you fail to see that, you're a very small person,
Mhm.
because your whole entire concept of life has been shrunk to toys that you can shoot up in the air, and that's what makes you happy. That is so sad for that man.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's just one thing. When you talk to people like the people from the LNG and Texas LNG and how hard they're trying to build these massive, storage tanks for LNG to export out, then you start recognizing the fact that 500 years ago, 530 years ago, that's how long it's been now, when they came here and started taking all the resources of this land and sending them across the sea,
Yeah.
including our own people.
Yeah.
They were sending them
Oh yeah,
overseas.
yeah. And that's what's happening right now. There's an energy crisis, but because of the Ukraine and Russia fight, Russia was going to build an LNG pipeline to Germany through Ukraine, but now they can't because they're at war with each other, and everybody's worried about Europeans during the winter. Aren't you guys on the cutting edge? Like, aren't you guys like have some of the greenest cities in the world? Like, now it's time like for Europe to buckle down and become green. Like, they don't need to be taking our resources, right? Us digging up the earth to send it to Europe, but also we need to stop being dependent on it, on these fossil
That
fuels.
is a key.
Yeah.
I think we
It's a dependency
encourage.
theory.
Yeah.
Yeah, we encourage that kind of behavior from other countries because,
Well, they did it to us.
well, yeah, but look at what they're all of these governments are against. It's against green energy and because it's money in their pockets, I suppose. Like the oil that's being dug up, that's money. Someone's making a lot of money,
Mhm.
and we're really not getting the benefit of that energy that's coming out of the ground because it's being shipped to other countries. So we're being used, I see, by Canada to move their dirty oil through our state and potmark the surface of the earth. They dig up our ancestors' graves. They pollute the air. They kill the animals, and they love that wall that prohibits wildlife to move around like it's supposed to. From wildlife doesn't have a border. They live on both sides of the river.
And the river has receded a ton since
Yes.
they built that wall. Like, it used to be all the way up to where these rocks are at. Like, we just saw it a couple of months ago, but now it's like all like down to like where the riverbed is. That's where the water is. It's dried up so much just because of the impact that they put there.
It's bad spirit there.
Yeah.
It's not good. When I go and I see those columns, it just tells me where we've gotten to,
Mhm.
and it's ugly. Anybody that has seen the wall if they doesn't make their stomach turn, there's something wrong. It's a really ugly thing to see.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is that wall doesn't keep out Elon Musk.
No, no,
Well, see, that's the problem is they don't see themselves as immigrants, and they don't see themselves as the invaders
Invaders, yeah.
that they came here and they created a genocide, and they continue supporting that genocide, whether they're brand new here or not. They support a system that is still, like look what Texas is doing. They're they have the EQA, um, which is the Indian Child Welfare Act. They've taken it to court. What did Homeland Security do? They waived uh, the Native American Grace Protection and Repatriation Act, and they waived the American Indian Religious Freedom Act in the Valley to build that wall.
Mm-hmm.
And if it hadn't been to the point where we were there constantly talking about it, they wouldn't be telling us anything about. We wouldn't be talking to them about what are they finding. That's how they found the 16 villages that that our grandfather used to talk about.
but that's a good point, Juan. That's exactly what I'm talking about. That if we just don't challenge those things that are ugly and bad, they will go along. I remember when that wall was being built and there was a cemetery, the Carrizo people set a camp right in its path.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a challenge like, now what are you going to do? Are you going to dig up these graves? Are you going to tear down our site like you did in North Dakota? And we stopped them there.
Mhm.
So that's what it takes, I think. We need to be able to make statements like that we have a voice, we know what you're doing, we see it, and we haven't bought into it.
Yeah, but if Valero offers me $500,000, am I gonna take it just so I can have
Let's see.
Bihuey?
Yeah, and
That's
and tacos and
that's
that's it.
that's one of the things when these companies like Total is a notorious company out of France,
Mhm.
you know, and they've got that thing down there at in in what is it, Port Arthur,
Mhm.
and they're trying to build more and add on to that Chenier plant over there on the Sabine Pass, and we have to be able to be aware that these guys are there for one thing. So now we know that Total is from France, and we know that Portugal is also investing into the Rio Grande LNG. So what do? We have to go to their countries, sue them for crimes against humanity, and if that doesn't work, we'll go against them on crimes against on genocide. And that's exactly what we got to do, because that's the only way people are going to start saying, well, the United States has done that to you. See, how many times have we tried to go against the United States for those kinds of against the genocide that they promote, and that's one thing that we have. If we want to work and really be constitutional and democratic, you know, and we got to start talking about equity. We got to start talking about the things that I don't want to be like them. I just want fairness, and some of that fairness is quit digging us up.
Yeah.
That's part of the genocide.
And now I remember what I was going to say, because like I was saying, there's not a lot of open, well, there is more and more native voices, more representation, which is great. But on the side of when we were talking about Boca Chica Beach, that used to be a class thing too. It was free to go to Boca Chica Beach. And also there was no checkpoint there. So for people who are living in Brownsville, who are undocumented or don't have a lot of money, they went to Boca Chica Beach. But now you can't go there because there's a checkpoint. There's a checkpoint.
So
And
that,
I don't understand why.
well, that's part of the control.
It's
That's
the militarism.
yeah, and that's part of the
Yeah.
control, the
Yeah.
control issue, and that continues to promote the genocide, and that's why I keep saying that if we don't talk about it,
And you're right. I think we need to talk about it because we are not chattel.
I agree.
We cannot be treated like we are owned, and that's I think that's their idea because we never have been.
Well, that's where the whole then this other new big word that comes out called sovereignty. But when you look at what they've done, what this country has done to recognize if you're native or not, it's not up to the United States to decide that. If we already know who we are, we speak our languages, we know where our ancestors are buried, we know where our lands are. Who decides that? Do they do it again? Do these invaders, these immigrants that came in here, decide that?
That's exactly what's going on right
Yeah.
Yeah.
now. Yeah, and I I'm not heartbroken by not being recognized by the federal government. I don't think I need a card with my picture. I don't know how they recognize, but I don't need that to know who I am, that I'm Indian. And I'm very proud to be Carrizo Comecrudo. Uh, it was what our parents, grandparents, that's where we came from, and that's who we are. And all I need more than a card is for my grandfather to have told me who I was, and he did. I remember as a young kid, I asked him if what kind of Indian we were, and I was expecting like something that you see in the movies, the Apache, the Cherokee, the and he said, "You're Carrizo," and that was the end of the conversation. I had never heard that before, but
Yeah, I know that's something I grew up with was like, man, I've never heard of this
yeah,
before. And and part of it too was like, like disillusionment because like we're
yes,
not represented heavily in a lot of school textbooks. But we are in a lot of collegiate anthropological and linguist and what is the other word, archaeological works, and it's mostly collegiate works where you find us in. But I think one of the most life-changing things, life-changing moments for me in accepting and understanding and just fully feeling the impact of being indigenous to the land here is when I was sent by my dad, because my dad was in the area, and this was just something that happened just because my dad knew so many people in the Native community worldwide. They put him in part of repatriating artifacts to different people that he worked with, and because of that, the Texas Wild Forest and Wildlife would call him if they would find something, and they found at Lake Allen Henry, which is a man-made lake, which is probably a series of like rock like crevices, right? That they turned into a lake during World War II. The water level had dropped, and they found all these cave paintings. And in one of the cave paintings was a picture of a black figure with a long hat wearing a cross on his chest with a sword with blood at the tip of it and several brown people around him with cut feet. And that was a big deal when I saw it because that was a story that I've been told
mm,
orally. Like it's an oral tradition that would in our families, a story that we've been told about how they would keep us in the missions, and to see that on the rock face, well, it's like there's our history
yeah,
books.
exactly.
There's our history
Yes.
books.
And
And
and when you see a lot of the paintings, even across from all the way here all the way to adobe walls, and you see the same signature, and you can only
nice.
interpret it from the language that we have, then you understand that we have a connection to this land in that way. And when you see the whole idea of what they're doing even now, because they're taking our prophecy and trying to own it, and they're trying to decipher it the way they want it to make it sound like, that there were these hallucinogenic uh, dreams that we had, and I'm going like, well, those are prophecies telling me about the white man coming here. So,
Mhm.
and talking, and they even show the rockets.
Yeah.
They show the rockets. They show the horizontal fracking, and people don't want to hear it because they're not there anymore. They don't. They've become so colonized in themselves because of the laws that they passed, like the EQA being challenged by the state of Texas. I mean, Texas is challenging affirmative action. They're challenging just about anything they can to try and get what they need.
Restore white power.
Well, exactly. Well, that's it. They're sitting there writing the laws,
Yeah.
and we're not having anything to do with it.
Yeah.
So they can criminalize us in any way. And when they passed that no protest law, that was another way of criminalizing us
Yeah.
and making us look like the bad. Oh, we just arrested 16, drug traffickers at the border. And I said, well, we didn't see the reports. Let me see the reports. And out of how many people did you stop at the border? 16. Well, then let the other ones go and just keep those 16 if those are drug traffickers. So,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And I think to your point about that law that Texas passed about protesting, no protest. Where was this Republican woman? What was her name? Flores.
Myra Flores.
Where was she?
Where is she? What does she represent? Let me look. Let me
No,
look.
I'm saying where was she on that issue?
On what issue?
It was a state law that criminalizes protesting around equipment. If
Or
you
impeding any kind of a construction.
impeding construction. Where was that freedom?
Oh, the critical infrastructure bill.
Yeah.
Where was that that passion about defending protesting? I don't hear it now.
Yeah.
It's all transactional. It's not a policy even. It's what fits their agenda at that point in time, and that's what they're going to carry through.
When the fossil fuel industry put so much money into the gubernatorial race, and just so that they can get their way and get past their laws the way they want, the policies of them, I don't see a single law in there other than a lot of people wanting to go over there and get state recognition, but you're really not getting state recognition. You're getting a proclamation of being a people or descendant of those people. And because if it was, then you would have an Indian commission, but we don't have any of that. So we're running out of time. So maybe next time we can continue with part 2 of this.